Yeah, on Friday, much to the surprise of FDA staffers themselves, they were invited to a meeting in which RFK Jr. was speaking directly to staff over a video. There were watch parties at FDA's headquarters, and the remarks that RFK Jr. made really stunned them. It was wide-ranging, expanding from conversation about the deep state and CIA, in RFK Jr.'s own words, to what he described as an autism epidemic and his own experience working with children with developmental disabilities, using comments that really frustrated, disturbed some of these staffers, some of whom walked out of rooms, looked at each other in disbelief. It was just a day of shock for folks on campus at a time where HHS is facing a massive restructuring too. So Friday news dump for you, Tim.
Well, you succeeded in that. I was walking home and I was like, what is this?
It's crazy. Or I don't know that I should, I guess some would say it's crazy. So what are staffers doing? Obviously, these people have been put in place to ensure that when it comes to drugs, when it comes to food, that things are done in a way that brings no harm to American citizens. So I'm just curious about what are they doing? Remind us too, the DOGE impact that we've seen. Roll it all together for us, Riley.
Yeah, so DOGE, the new administration broadly under this reorg is expecting about 20,000 HHS employees to be gone after all is said and done. And that includes people who take that fork in the road email and choose to leave. That includes early retirees, and that includes people who are essentially laid off. Within FDA, the Food and Drug Administration that we're talking about here, that's about 3,500 staffers. And they do all sorts of things. Industry analysts, for example, expect this could have a kind of headwind on the drug approval process, which is really interesting because earlier you're talking about the headline that just crossed the wire as the Trump administration looks to secure the pharmaceutical supply chain with tariffs, ultimately using commerce to assess a national security risk there. So these two things may not necessarily be achieving the same end, the layoffs in FDA and the tariff policy.
You know, Riley, we're laying out the numbers. HHS, 20,000 are expected to be gone. FDA, 3,500, I believe you said, to leave. Who's left? How many are left? Who's left?
I believe that puts us about 40,000 folks, but I would have to double check that number for you. But it's still a sizable.
Left. Yeah.
Yes, it's a sizable cut, is the takeaway, that 20,000 folks would be gone, and among those 3,500 to the Food and Drug Administration.
Yeah, it's about a third, right? Gone.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Hey, before we let you go, I mentioned, you're out there in San Francisco, you are covering Meta platforms, but I still want you to live in this world of pharmaceuticals and drugs because that is the news that's breaking right now. The president pressed forward with plans to impose tariffs on semiconductor and pharmaceutical imports by initiating probes led by the Commerce Department. What do we know about these sectoral tariffs? And I mean, you cover technology too, so you're looking closely at sectoral tariffs for technology. But is there a way to easily make these drugs in the U.S. that, that's the whole point of these tariffs?
Yeah, it's a really complicated question because the pharmaceutical manufacturing supply chain at this point is a global one. And it's not just the finished final product, but the underlying materials that are used to make these different drugs, biologics, the kinds that you inject, even components of pills, are coming from all over the world, many from China, many from India. And so these tariffs certainly will be impactful. I know we're hearing about impacts on pharmaceutical stocks of U.S. drug makers, but this is breaking with precedent. Historically, medicines haven't been caught in the trade war, if you are to use those terms, because of the impact it has on the average person.
Yes,
so time will tell.